another sign of the times, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rivian's in the news. RJ Scaringe is in the news. Apparently, he gave a couple interviews in recent weeks, and he spoke to supply chain shortages and issues, which are still ongoing.
Right.
And he's under a lot of pressure right now because he can't make enough vehicles fast enough to basically get his company in the green.
Right. And it's got his, he just went public, guys. And his shares have fallen by 60% so far this year.
Oh, and trust me, as a shareholder, I'm well aware. Now, what was it? It's been less than 6 months that they've been public, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and that was November of 2021 is the initial public offering, and the shares sank hard in March after Rivian cut the production forecast for 2022 in half to just 25,000 vehicles. Now, Keith and I have been covering the supply shortages for 2 years now. We the chip shortage, and then it turned into all these other things. But there's much more to this story that people need to realize, and especially these smaller startup companies like this. The way the supply chain works in the automotive industry, when you have companies that are supplying body panels or electronic components or chips or whatever to Ford or a GM or a Volkswagen group, those guys are going to get that stuff first. They're going to allocate that product to them first.
Okay,
which puts a small company like this even further at risk.
There's an element here in the journal. This is just becoming an issue with me, is these guys leading you down a path in journalism that maybe is not accurate. So the one that I'm reading is out of Yahoo News, and they give a quote. RJ says, I have to call up semiconductor supplier Y and say, this is how many supplier X gave us, and get everybody comfortable because the system's unproven. So he's basically saying, I got to call one up and go, well, I'm getting more than that from these guys. Surely you guys can give me some more too.
Right.
And you're saying like that is true because your bigger players like Volkswagen, they're holding out, they're not, the supply isn't completely exhausted, right?
Right. No, the supplies are there.
Yeah.
But they are allocated to specific.
So Scaringe is basically making the case that those suppliers are holding back a little bit, which I think is true, and you in the industry have seen that.
Oh, I'm certain it is.
Yahoo is kind of the news. They're kind of painting it like he's kind of BSing his way through this. Like, they're making the case that there are other reasons causing the production shortages and that he can't produce the vehicles, and he's using this as a cover. Well, let me just ask you, Jay, because we've reported on him a lot. We've reported on RJ, the CEO of Rivian, quite a bit.
Right. Yep.
One of the things that we repeatedly call out is how upfront, open, and
absolutely
transparent he is to his customers.
Right. Yeah, he is.
So either that was all a sinister plan to lead up to this,
right,
or there is no sinister plan, and he's still being honest.
Yeah, no. Look, the bottom line is that he is faced with the challenges just like any major company, auto manufacturer is out there, and what he is saying is very true. What RJ is saying, there are no smoke and mirrors. He is not plotting anything. When he came out and said we've got to raise costs, I believe that. How he went about trying to recoup maybe some of his losses initially, it bit him hard and fast, but he came back and said, okay, I made a mistake. You guys, I promised you this price, so you get to keep it this price. But if you're going to buy this vehicle from here to four and you don't have a reservation, this is what it's going to cost you. He's passing it on to the consumer just as it is being passed on to him from the supplier. And this stuff is not going to go away with Rivian. And again, some of these smaller companies like a Mullen or a Fisker, or that are just now really getting
DeLorean.
the wheels. DeLorean, all of these, it kind of makes you wonder, how in the world are they going to pull this off? How are they going to do this?
Let me add some clarity to just exactly how painful this is. So RJ says that these Rivians have on average about 2,000 parts for each vehicle produced. Okay.
Right.
He's saying that the supply shortage right now is less than 0.5% of those parts.
Yeah, it's 0.5%. Yeah.
So
less than
that's
1/2, but
yeah,
so
that's
about
like
4%.
Yeah.
0.4%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking a couple dozen parts here
Yeah, but
that he
those
can't get that are holding up the entire production of each
right.
vehicle.
Yes, absolutely. We have had this conversation on this show before about how that works, because most of these manufacturers work in what we call a JIT mode or a just-in-time mode. They are not warehousing the product. They are expecting timely deliveries to get these things done, and when they're stuck in the middle of we can't deliver, then guess what? You have to cut production. You have to stop production. Typically, those people who are committed to you and that are supplying you are heavily fined if you're a GM, if you're a Ford. And this is why when it comes to these types of shortages, a little old company like Rivian, they have to suffer more than a Ford
Right.
and a GM, because they're going to get those. The big three is what we used to call the big three. It's no longer the big three. It's actually the big two, in my opinion, GM
Right.
and Ford.
Right.
Because Chrysler, Dodge, in general, is not even itself anymore. What Stellantis is like the big 20, right, or something.
But it's a global.
But it's a global
model.
Absolutely. But this is what happens in these situations. So RJ has always been open, and this is what we have said, and he is telling you straight up the struggles that he has had. And unfortunately, people are buying into some of the media that it was a planned tactic by him, like a bait and switch type tactic, and it's not the case. This is just not the case. He's being very truthful here.
I will say this: if anybody can pull this off, it's this guy.
Yeah.
And I will. So all is not lost, everybody. So at the end of last year, Rivian had over $18 billion with a B dollars in cash reserves.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They are not expecting to have to do another investment round. They are going to do fine to continue operation on what they have for the foreseeable future. They're not going to turn a profit this year. It's not going to happen. Ramping up that kind of production, especially in the middle of a supply chain issue, takes years. But I do think that they will continue to approach that net zero and turn a profit. I think they're going to continue their trend towards production. Don't forget, they have a contract with Amazon to produce some of the Amazon vehicles, delivery vehicles, and that's going to be a big factor in their profitability.
Yeah.
So they're by no means are they in trouble in the traditional sense.
No, they've got a lot of fulfillment to deal with here yet, and I think that they'll pull it off. It's happening, and honestly, I've seen a Rivian or two floating around here. I think I even saw a Fisker just recently.
Yeah, imagine the good old days, Jay, when the problem was, are we going to sell any cars, right?
Right.
Now it's, we sold a bunch of cars.
Right.
What are we going to do?
We need more cars.
Right.
You know? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, man. Wow. So if you've liked this video or this podcast, any of this stuff we do, you can check out our videos over on youtube.com/PartsCounterGurus. Make sure you turn that subscribe button from red to gray. Ring that bell to get notified for any videos that come out. Go to our podcast links at partscounterguru.com. We're on every platform out there. Make sure you hit those. Also, social medias. We are on Facebook.com/PartsCounterGurus. We are on Instagram. Over on Instagram, we are the Parts Counter Gurus. As Keith had mentioned, we are also on Twitter, and that is twitter.com. We are at The Counter Show is our handle. Wow, we're out on everything. So anyway, thanks for subscribing if you are. If you aren't, please do so, and tell some friends. Yeah.